Welcome to today's Explainer. We are diving into an absolute masterpiece of Mizo folklore. It's a really fascinating story that perfectly illustrates how intellect and abstract thinking can completely overpower physical constraints and traditional authority. Today, we're looking at the tale of Chemteii.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Think about this central mystery. How does a young village girl, someone with literally zero political power, no wealth, no status, how does she completely outmaneuver the absolute monarch of her land? Well, we're going to find out.
Section 1. The Sealed Dispute. A Legacy Divided.
So, to really grasp her genius, we've got to look at the inciting incident. And it all starts with what seems like a pretty standard family argument over an inheritance. Basically, two brothers inherit a single Chemteii, which is a buffalo, from their dying father. Over the years, this one buffalo multiplies into a massive, super valuable herd. But you know how these things go. When it comes time to divide the wealth, the older brother gets greedy. He claims, hey, Dad gave the original buffalo exclusively to me, leaving his younger brother completely empty-handed. They argue they get nowhere, so they take it straight to the king. But there are no witnesses. Nobody heard the father's final words. The king is totally stumped. So he decides to settle it his own unique way. Which brings us to the king's three riddles, literal versus abstract thinking.
The king decides to test their wisdom, and whoever answers his three riddles best gets the whole herd. Here's riddle number 1, and take a second to think about what your own answer would be. What is the fastest thing in the world? Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the profound difference in how these two sides think. The older brother relies purely on his literal, materialistic worldview. He owns a fast horse, so he just blurts out a fast horse. But the younger brother, he's been talking to his clever daughter, Chemteii, and she gave him the winning answer, the mind, or Rilu. Because as she beautifully pointed out, your mind's thoughts can travel across the entire globe in the literal blink of an eye. You can imagine the king just smiling at that. He knew instantly who had the superior answer. But you know, the king needs to be absolutely sure, so the next day he hits them with riddle number 2. What is the fattest or most robust thing in the world? And once again, the younger brother, who was probably despairing at this point, relies entirely on his genius daughter to save him. The contrast here is just as wild. The older brother, thinking only about his farm, confidently answers with a fat pig. But Chemteii, she goes with this beautiful abstract reasoning, the earth or lei. She explains that the earth sustains literally all living things. Every human, every animal feeds off its richness. And yet, the earth itself never grows thin. Brilliant, right?
So now the king is hooked. The intellect behind these answers is just astounding to him. But he sets one third and final riddle to settle this massive inheritance once and for all. What is the most valuable thing in the world?
And this brilliantly illustrates Chemteii's whole philosophy. The older brother, he guesses a wife, but Chemteii answers sleep, or muthil. Now why sleep? Because in sleep, everyone is perfectly equal. When we're asleep, nobody covets anything, and even the most powerful king in the world is reduced to absolutely nothing without it. It's the ultimate great equalizer. The king is absolutely blown away by this profound wisdom, and, you guessed it, he grants the entire herd of buffalo to the younger brother.
Moving right along to the tests and answers, the impossible demands. So the story doesn't end there. The king eventually finds out that these clever answers didn't come from the brother, but actually from his daughter, Chemteii. Fascinated, he decides to test her directly, and he issues this rapid escalation of impossible, basically magical demands just to see if she cracks. Night 1, he sends over a single cotton seed and demands she grow it, spin it, and weave it into a finished shirt by morning. When she sidesteps that, Night 2 rolls around, and he sends a single egg, demanding she hatch it and raise a fully grown, crowing rooster overnight. He's literally setting a trap for her to fail.
Let's move to and see how this builds, because Chemteii does not back down. She masterfully turns the tables by exposing exactly how absurd his requests are. For the shirt, she tells her dad to relay a message. Sure, I'll absolutely do it, but His Majesty first needs to provide a spinning wheel and a loom crafted completely out of thin air. For the egg, she sends back a single grain of rice, telling the king to plant it, harvest it, and mill it overnight so she has food for the newborn chick. Boom! She beats him at his own game, trapping the king right inside his own impossible logic.
Realizing he's totally met his match, the king demands to see her in person. But he sets this ultimate paradoxical challenge for her arrival just to test her wit one last time. Get this, she must arrive neither dressed nor undressed. She must not arrive on foot nor on a horse, and she must neither bring a gift nor come empty-handed. I mean, it's a complete logical nightmare.
And here is where her physical ingenuity completely matches her verbal wit. To perfectly satisfy all these contradictory rules, she shows up wrapped in a fishing net. So she's not fully dressed, but she's definitely not undressed. She's wearing makeshift shoes, which keeps her off the bare ground, but she's not riding a horse. And the grand finale? She brings a live pigeon. When she goes to hand it to the king, it instantly flies away. So technically she brought a gift, but she arrived effectively empty-handed. The king is so captivated by this unparalleled genius that he straight up asks to marry her.
This brings us to marriage vow and breach, the price of justice.
So, they get married. But the king, knowing exactly how clever his new bride is, sets a super strict patriarchal condition. He tells her, "You must not interfere with my rulings. If you do, you must take the one thing you desire most and return to your father's house." He's demanding absolute submission in state matters and setting incredibly specific literal terms for her potential banishment. And she agrees.
Well, it doesn't take long for Chemteii to breach that contract. Why? Because some jealous rivals at court falsely accuse an innocent elder and the king sentences him unfairly. Chemteii knows the real story, and she prioritizes truth and justice way above her royal position or her own safety. So she steps in, speaks up, and saves the innocent man's life. But in doing so, she breaks the king's cardinal rule.
Which sets us up for the greatest victory, the ultimate checkmate.
The king, bound by his own pride in this rigid decree, brings the hammer down. He tells her it's over. She needs to pack up her one most desired possession and leave. But Chemteii? She doesn't argue. She doesn't beg. She just calmly accepts the banishment and sets a very methodical plan in motion. Step 1, she prepares this magnificent, delicious farewell meal for the two of them. Step 2, she secretly spikes the king's drink with a heavy sleeping potion. And step 3, once the king is completely out cold, she has her servants literally carry the sleeping king all the way back to her father's house, and they just place him in the back room.
So the crucial point is what happens the next morning. The king wakes up completely disoriented, right? He's looking around this humble village house instead of his lavish palace. He stares at Chemteii and goes, "What is going on?" And Chemteii delivers this absolute mic drop of an explanation. She says, "You said I could take the one thing from your house I desire most. You are the one I desire most, so I took you." I mean, wow. She followed his literal rule to the exact letter while completely subverting his entire intent.
It's just an incredibly satisfying conclusion to an amazing story. And it leaves us with this final thought to chew on today. Who truly holds the power? Is it the one sitting on the throne making the rules, or the one who possesses the intellect to understand exactly how to bend them? It's a subversive, fascinating payoff that really highlights the incredible depth of Mizo folklore. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I really hope this sparked your curiosity to explore more clever tales just like this one. See you next time.